Hi there guys, it's Richard Crawford-Small. Hope everybody is well. Just want to talk to you now for the next 20 minutes or so about, for me, which is one of the fundamental aspects of good business practice, which is our ability to goal set. Now, a little bit about me before we start. I'm the founder of Aesthetic Entrepreneurs, and I specialise in helping medical aesthetic practitioners globally to grow their businesses by having better conversations with their clients, converting those conversations into relationships, and then turning the relationships into sales and revenue. Based in the UK, and I've been doing this for around about 15 years, and I'm very thrilled to be taking you through this session on goal setting. So, with all things, we start at the beginning. So, what is goal setting? Well, many of us have different definitions for what goal setting actually is. For me, I like to simplify things and bring them down into just one key fact because I have a tiny brain. And for me, goal setting is all about simple action of focus. It's about creating almost like a movement, a crusade within our mind to achieve one thing. And it's incredibly powerful when we actually achieve that, because goal setting really can absolutely change your life. And if you're not doing it regularly at the moment, I really recommend that you do so. So why would we want to goal set? What are the things that we can achieve by this? Well, goal setting really actually helps do a number of different things. And I've just kind of highlighted 5 key benefits of regular goal setting for me. Is one, it triggers behavior. So the act of writing down a particular goal, something that we want to achieve, kind of helps us align our thoughts, create focus, and almost signal to our self-conscious that this is what we want to achieve. And people sort of talk about how the universe, sometimes under the law of attraction, the universe can conspire to give us what we want to achieve. But what I think that is by creating a particular goal and documenting it, it aligns our focus and it connects our mind to this goal. So we start spotting opportunities. We start seeing things that we wouldn't have normally seen. And when that happens, all of a sudden, small things start to move. And as we are focused on our goal, every action that we take subconsciously, whether we like it or not, whether we're actually thinking about it or not, starts to move towards the goal. Therefore, we start to create momentum towards our goal. Now, obviously, these things don't happen overnight. It's as we'll discover later on, it's a combination of desire, but also good habits. And goal setting also enables us to build those habits, to create that momentum and keep it going. And the last thing that goal setting does is it shows us gaps in our knowledge, shows us gaps in our ability. Because if we are focused on achieving that particular goal, well, we're not going to let anything stand in our way. Even if that happens to be a skill gap or a knowledge gap that we can perhaps fill by upskilling ourselves, or perhaps bringing in that expertise from outside of our team. So all of these things are very, very important for our business growth. And by consistent goal setting, we can really highlight these criteria for business development and business growth. But there's a lot of different theories around goal setting, and I want us for a minute just to kind of think about how we're going to go against some established wisdom. And there's a goal setting methodology that you may well be familiar with, which is called SMART. Now, SMART is a goal setting methodology that is very, very common, but I have a bit of a problem with it, and I shall share it with you. Now, SMART goals are, as the acronym is, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. Now, all of these things are wonderful things. Things you do need to have some specific goals. They do need to be measurable. You need to understand what it is, when you achieve that goal. And they need to be time-bound. Now, I have a bit of a problem with achievable and realistic because, yes, you want to have goals that aren't pie in the sky, But on the other hand, achievable and realistic limits us. And if you were to say to, Neil Armstrong, if landing a man on the moon was achievable and realistic, maybe he'd had a different opinion. But I don't believe that adherence to SMART goals would have enabled us to put a man on the moon. And here's why. In 1961, President John F. Kennedy did a speech to Congress. And the speech was that, as said, that the US must commit itself to achieving the goal before the decade is out of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to Earth. Now, in that wonderful speech he gave, there are a few things there. Is the goal specific? Absolutely. We are going to achieve the goal of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to Earth. Is it measurable? Of course. A man would land on the moon and return safely to Earth. Is it time-bound? Absolutely, before the decade is out. But a question. Is it realistic? And is it achievable? Now, some would say that, the US and NASA had done a lot of research before this to understand whether or not it is realistic or achievable. But I think if they had allowed themselves to think that way, it wouldn't have happened. So I developed a different methodology around goal setting. And I called it DART, the DART model, which stands for desire, action, repeat, and time. And if we apply that model to the moon landing, for example, the program, this is kind of what it comes up with. Because the first step, obviously, in desire is, I look at it, it's not just a desire, but it's a burning desire. So, and what I mean by burning desire is you need to really want to smell, taste, and touch this goal. It's the first thing that you wake up in the morning, and it's the last thing you think about at night. It almost all consuming. It'll take all of your resources to achieve this. And if it's not a burning desire, well then further down the road, you're not really going to stick to it. So as we look at things like consistency and application, well, if the desire is not particularly, it doesn't inspire you, if it doesn't light you up, then are you really going to stick to it? Are you really going to see it out when it starts to get really challenging? So for example, let's look at Kennedy. His burning desire, or the burning desire that he instilled in the United States, was due to the Cold War. At the time, Soviet Union had just put a man in space. He mobilized, galvanized the United States behind one burning desire to put a man on the moon. All of the resources, I think 5% of the United States GDP every year was put towards this one particular goal. NASA was massively funded. And we choose to go to the moon to do all these things, not because they're easy, but because they're hard. He created a crusade, a real movement around that goal and the general burning desire from the United States to achieve it. But after you have that desire, you need a couple of other things. Desire on its own is not going to get you what you want to get. Just wanting it to happen isn't going to get you where you need to get to. The next thing you need to do is take action. And not just action, but immediate, massive action. Now, again, we're looking at the context of the moon landings. They did put a lot of immediate, massive action into it. In fact, it cost $152 billion in 2019 dollars to put a man on the moon. And if you think about all the different organizations, all the different departments, all the different companies involved in planning, in creating the rockets, in developing all of the technology that was required to achieve this goal, 60% of the technology for the Apollo missions had to be invented. At the time of Kennedy's speech to Congress, only 40% of the actual hardware and software and materials that they used had actually been invented. Everything, well, pretty much, 2/3 of it had to be created from scratch. And it cost $152 billion to do that. And just to give it some context, that is the value of the entire global computer games market in 2019. So you get a real idea of the vast scale of the project. And it was immediate, massive action. Now, again, we've got the desire, we want to do it. we've got the plan and we put the action in place, we're happy with the resources, and we put all these things together to achieve our goals. But there's another thing that we need to do. The R in the DART methodology is repeat. And again, not just repeat, but repeat consistently. Every day, every time that you kind of show up, you have to show up with the goal in mind. You have to test things, plan things, execute, fail, succeed, do all of these things over and over and over again. And just, for example, looking at, space program. Now, the Mercury program was a little bit before the decision to put the man on the moon, but I included it in here because it was part of that overall goal. 14 Mercury flights, 11 of them successful into putting a man into what they called sub-orbit. So, close Earth orbit. Can you get a man into space and get him back? Yes, we could do that. So 14 flights, 11 of those are successful. And then the program to actually get a man on the moon kind of began with Gemini. So another series of missions, 12 of those, and 10 were successful. But the actual program, the Apollo program, which was effectively ended with, culminated or it peaked with the moonshot of Apollo 11, was before Apollo 11 was 34 different missions, unmanned, manned, all learning, growing, developing, testing. Some were successful, some were not. Unfortunately, 3 astronauts died during the Apollo program. During one of the tests. So 34 missions before the 34th one, which was the moonshot, which was Apollo 11. So repeated consistently, consistent application. If you add up all of those different missions, all of those different journeys that were taken in order to get a man on the moon, it's a staggering amount of work that was done, but it was repeated consistency. Everybody turned up every day, did their job without question, and that's what it culminated in. But the final element of it is one that we cannot forget and we cannot ignore. And too many businesses forget about this while they're doing their planning, is time. We have to give it time. Change needs time. And implement anything with any real value, you have to give it time to work. And the Apollo missions took 8 years. 8 years to create. Which actually, when I think about it, was not a massive amount of time. But ultimately, 8 years in the length of a business could be beginning and end of a business. It could be literally just end of the startup phase. It could be taking you from start to profitability. It all depends on what the goal is and where you are and what you are looking to achieve. So you can't really be in a hurry. You can't overcomplicate it. Simplicity is the key. But in order to actually, I believe, to have a serious goal, you need to give it time. And be prepared to have to take step backwards and forwards all throughout the whole process. So if we look at the DART model, desire, a burning desire to achieve that goal. What goal is it that you want that's so bad? Is it a material goal? Is it a holiday? Is it a family goal? Or is it something for yourself? Whatever it is, it's got to be absolutely you have to be able to be willing to sacrifice and willing to really give it everything that you have in order to achieve that. Action. And not just action, but immediate and massive action. Hit as much at it as you can. NASA threw $152 billion at it. What can you throw at your goal to make it a reality? What are you prepared to sacrifice? What are you prepared to go without? What are you prepared to do? Are you prepared to, give 18-hour days? Or are you prepared to do a second jobs? All these things. If you're starting up an aesthetic business, if that's your burning desire, what are you prepared to do? And also you must repeat this. And it's not just repetition, but it's consistent repetition. Oh, you have to find the model, find out what it is that's working for you, and then just repeat it over and over and over again. You're going to have the same mission. You're going to repeat the same mission over and over and over again for as long as it takes. And that's the element that a lot of people don't really want to have to admit or accept, is that these things take time. Overnight successes are not overnight successes. Overnight successes are 15 years working hard for the 1 year that changes your life. That's the one that everyone notices. No one wants to really accept that there is a massive amount of work that goes behind every single successful entrepreneur, every single successful business. No one just creates it from scratch. It has to take time. And you'll be in that time, you may well find that one of those things doesn't work. So you go back to the beginning. You didn't have the big enough desire. You know what? You got to the bits where you had to kind of repeat it over and over again, and you decided actually wasn't really for you. That's a successful goal, because you actually identified something in the flaw in your plan really, really early on. So then you go back to the beginning and you find something that really lights you up. You apply immediate massive action. You repeat it for as long as it takes, and then you succeed. So on your own journey and on your own mission, for your business, for you as an entrepreneur, for you as an individual, for you and your family, go and take your moonshot. Whatever it is, wherever it is, go and do it. Go and find that goal. Find that goal, create the desire. Immediate, massive action. Go and repeat it consistently for as long as it takes. And who knows, maybe you'll just shoot for the stars and you might just get them. My name is Richard Crawford-Small. It's been amazing talking to you today. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in, and I look forward to speaking to you all again very, very soon.